I am getting goosebumps already. Why historic fiction and why Rani Padmavati?
I did not choose Padmavati. Padmavati chose me. She was so beautiful कि भौरे सोचते थे कि वो एक फूलों की गुलदस्ता है. So was she so beautiful? Was my question.
She was the contender of Raval Ratan Singh during the Swayam.
Right, during the Johar, it's horrific for anyone to go through it. So how could she remain so calm? So it is possible because of her. Why did she accept the tradition mandate for her death, which is Johar? She knows how much he wants to see her, and so she decides to trick him. She takes those palanquins, and she's there in those palanquins, and she's taken so many gifts for him and all that. And in that atmosphere, she brings him that.
Is Padmavati pure?
Maybe. However unfavorable, however tough circumstances may be, never give up.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Managya.
Finally, we are doing this.
Absolutely. I'm really excited.
I am getting goosebumps already. So, I think where do I start from is can you tell me a little bit about you, how you started writing, how you got into the world of writing and, fiction, historic fiction?
So, I was an obsessive reader when I was, ever since I started to read actually. And, something like I used to swallow a book. I used to not read, I used to literally swallow books every day, one every day. So as I was growing up, and I would read all my favorite authors, I would wonder what would happen if I could write like them. And during that time, the Times of India started their Write India campaign, which was a contest, which was a kind of, they were getting content sourcing actually.
All right.
And the way the campaign went was that every month, an established author would give a prompt. And based on that prompt, using that prompt, in fact, you had to write a short story, and there was a word limit and so on. And that had to be submitted. So every month it would be a different author. So the first month it was Amish Tripathi, and he gave a prompt. And he not only gave a prompt, he gave many other rules along with his prompt. And I wrote like I think many other people may have written all over India and submitted my story. And then they usually announce the winner the next month itself. So in the next month, somebody called me up to say, congrats Sutapa, you've won the Write India. I said, no, it must be some other Sutapa, not me. How can I win,
So I'll just come to my following question. Why historic fiction and why Padmavati, Rani Padmavati? I also call her Ma Padmavati because I think after your book, that's not just after your book, because in our family also we sort of pray to Satis. So I think her place in my heart is quite enormous. So why Padmavati and why historic fiction?
Why historic fiction is because I have two favorite genres that I read. One of them is thrillers and the other one is historic fiction, or historic narratives rather. So a lot of my favorite authors are those who have written historical narratives about different countries. It doesn't have to be India. Now Padmavati. So ever since my school days, I have always been intrigued by Rani Padmavati. And as I grew older, I would read about her adventures, and the mystery of who this unusual person was kept on growing. And I used to be perplexed by a lot of things I heard about her or read about her. I mean, for example, she was so beautiful कि उनके बारे में यही लिखा गया है कि भौरे सोचते थे कि वो एक फूलों की गुलदस्ता है. So was she so beautiful? Was my question. And then I would read about her exploits, and in my mind there would be this heroic daring, indomitable queen. And so I wanted to know more about her. और मैंने बहुत कोशिश की कि मैं उनके बारे में और जानूं, लेकिन मुझे कुछ मिला नहीं उसकी, मतलब who was she, वो कौन थी और कहाँ से आई थी, और how did she become so so courageous and such a unusual personality, how did she become that, वो कुछ मुझे कहीं भी नहीं मिली. And that started more questions inside me. And one of the most important questions was what you just mentioned, that after leading such a dynamic life, why did she accept the tradition mandate for her death, which is Johar?
Yeah.
Why did she do that?
A lot of people have this, I guess now that people know about the circumstances at that time, I think people think that Johar was probably the only option or the correct option rather. But there are still people who think that she could have sort of fled the place or maybe gone somewhere and anything but Johar, right?
Right.
What do you have to say about that?
So in my book, if you read the story, her people who were loyal to her did give her that escape route.
Yeah.
They did do that. But I believe the entire siege of Chittorgarh happened because of her, because of Khalji's obsession with her. And I believe that created a guilt inside her. Because she was, she had always been brought up to think that the people whom she ruled were her subjects and she is supposed to look after them. Instead, she felt that she had brought on them a crisis.
Yeah.
And that created a guilt inside her. And I think maybe that was the reason. Besides, she could escape, but what about the other women in the fort? What would happen to them?
Yeah.
And she felt that she needed to be loyal to them. She owed it to them that she should be with them when they, carried out this very painful way of killing themselves.
Death by fire is probably one of the most painful deaths anyone can endure.
Exactly. So if they had the courage to do it, what about me? She must have thought. Is it that I don't have the courage to do it and I will run away? I think these were the thoughts that were there in her mind, because that was the kind of person she was. That is how she had been raised.
Now, going a little backwards in the story, I just wanted to know first, like my first question would be about your book, which is Padmavati. The Queen writes her own story. Can you explain the idea behind it? Is this Padmavati telling her own story? Is this from her point of view? What is it about?
So I'll have to go back to the research that I had to do.
Yeah.
So whenever you write about a historical personality or an event in the past, you have to really do a lot of research. And I did that. So I started off online and I found there was hardly anything about Padmavati other than the fact that she was Raval Ratan Singh's 15th Rani.
Yeah.
And so she existed.
Yeah.
But nothing more. And of course the Johar, but nothing more than that. Then I came across two books which were academic books. One was written by B.K. Karkara, published by Rupa, and it is about Padmavati. And another book which is written by a lady who's called Srinivasan, J. Srinivasan, and her book was published actually by the University of Washington Press.
Oh, wow.
So it is called The Many Lives of a Rajput Queen. But both these books were academic books, non-fiction. And what I found was that many places, they would refer back to another book, which is a very famous book written by an Englishman called James Todd.
Yeah.
He wrote about the annals and antiquities of Rajputana. So they would keep going back to that, refer that book constantly. But nowhere did they actually establish the origins of Rani Padmavati.
All right.
Or her character, other than her exploits, her adventures, and it was for a reader to infer from that what could be her character. So then I decided to go to a library, and I did go to the the National Mission of Manuscripts. But even there, I hardly found anything about her.
Anything, not
Nothing.
even a single book or
No, hardly anything. And then I came, other than the facts, which are common facts, then I came across this poem called Padmavat,
Oh, okay.
which is actually written by, very strangely, a Sufi poet called Malik Muhammad Jaisi,
Okay.
who I think, it is written in Persian, and he used to live somewhere around Lucknow, and he wrote this poem called Padmavat. I, of course, read the translation. Unfortunately, I don't read, I don't know Persian. So I downloaded the English translation, and it was a beautiful poem. And that is where I found references to Singaldeep, where she came from, of course, about her beauty and about her character and personality. So there is so much description about her life, and so on. I think Raghav Chetna's also reference is from Padmavat.
Okay.
Yeah.
The poem.
The poem, exactly.
Okay. And the other characters, the supporting characters in the story, Ginny, who's Rani Padmavati's parrot, and Ambika, who is her best friend. Is that also the reference that
Ginny
we got?
is.
Ginny
is very much from Padmavat.
Oh, alright.
And even in Padmavat, so Ginny had a very special role in Padmavat, and I adopted that role because Ginny was actually a metaphor. Whether she is a real parrot or not, we don't know, because the bird is basically an allegory. As though, because in many places you will find that Padmavati says that Ginny is her soulmate.
Yeah.
So when I read Padmavat, the poem, I realized that the poet actually wants to say that Ginny was Padmavati's spirit, was a part of Padmavati.
Okay.
So it was as though whenever she's speaking to Ginny, it is as though she's speaking to herself. So I continued with that, and actually Ginny is a metaphor for a soulmate and an allegory where she is able to sort of in a way kind of keep talking to herself, reflecting on what she should do, the actions she should take.
Got it.
And as far as Ambika is concerned, Ambika is of course a companion, and in those days, as tradition goes, when the women and girls of elite families would get married and go to their sasural, तो साथ में कोई always सखियाँ जाती थी, तो वही Ambika is actually her sakhi and her best friend.
What I really wanted to discuss was Padmavati's life in Singhaldweep and her training as a warrior, as an administrator, and like as we've seen in your book and in the movies, she was not only a beautiful princess, but she was a warrior. She was a nurturer. She was like this. I think a lot of people would say that she was as eligible for a Raval as Raval Ratan Singh, I would say. So can you elaborate on her training and where she came from and what she was?
So Singhaldweep is supposedly the ancient name for the island of Sri Lanka, what we call Sri Lanka today. It was, I think, called Singhaldweep for many reasons. Maybe people who went there found a lot of lions there, and so they called it Singha and then Singhaldweep. Also, its very famous ruler was Raja Bijoy Singha, who ruled somewhere around about 500 BCE. So from that, I think the name Singhaldweep came. But we all know, and this is historically correct, that possibly during the Chola period, a lot of people from the southern part of India, they migrated to this island, which they call Singhaldweep, but which we know today as Sri Lanka. And you have a lot of their culture, the Tamilian culture, which you will find in the northern part of the island. Even today, if you go there, you will find there are a lot of Hindu temples there. while the rest of Sri Lanka is predominantly Buddhist, but you'll find a lot of temples, lot of Hindus living in the northern part of Sri Lanka.
Alright.
So I have visualized, because he said that she came from there, and he has never, Jessie has never said that she was a Buddhist, and nowhere do we find that she's a Buddhist. So we assume that she was a Hindu. So how is it that she was a Hindu? So the logical answer is that she came from that part of Singaldeep where the Hindus had settled, and so that culture was there. Now, Padmavati was the daughter of a king of Singaldeep, and she was the only child. So she had been brought up to actually take over the throne. Her father wanted her to sit on the throne, even though she was a girl. So one again assumes that the society at that time, and if you look at during that time, the Chola period, or even before that, if you look at South India, people were very liberated as compared to societies in North India. The societies in South India were much, much more liberated.
Women were much liberated.
And very respected and revered.
Oh, alright.
So, and educated.
And educated, because that is something very rare. That was very rare during those times.
Yes.
And only, I think, elite families could read and
Absolutely.
write. But everyone in Singaldeep could read and write.
Exactly. So I visualized Singaldeep as a very, very liberal society, a society where women were respected, women were educated, and it was not a surprise that the ruler would think that his daughter should be brought up as a prince and should be able to sit on the throne and rule his kingdom after him. So she was therefore groomed to be a ruler of Singaldeep. Obviously, she would be given training in weapons. She would be given training in, in how you should rule. So she grew up to be a very ethical, moral. Of course, she was courageous and she was brave, but she was also extremely focused on the fact that this kingdom was hers, and she needed to look after the subjects, see what will benefit them, how they can be kept safe and secure. So she grew up with this entire idea, and that is why when you say that she was fit to be probably a ruler, she was, because she had been groomed to be a ruler.
Yeah, because there are two instances in your book where she has showcased her warriorship and how she was a great swordswoman, I would say. For example, the first instance, and I got very inspired by that she was the contender of Raval Ratan Singh when he he sort of
during the Swayamvar.
During the Swayamvar.
Right.
So do you think that is, because of course that is something that we have not seen in the movie, right? But is there like an evidence, or is that all fictional sort of to inspire people out there, inspire girls out there? What is the exact scenario behind this?
So Swayamvar, of course, is not a very unusual, custom. It used to happen. I mean, we've read about it in Mahabharata, Ramayana, and so on. So it was very much a part of the ancient Hindu customs. Now, a Swayamvar in which the groom has to actually fight and win a duel, a sword duel, was something different. But why did Padmavati decide to do that? And I'll just read a little bit from that part of the book, and how she explains to her parents why this should happen. So what she says is, "O my esteemed father and my compassionate mother, you have brought me up with love and indulgence because you believed it to be your parental duty. Today it's my turn to return your affection by carrying out my filial duty. My father, the king of Singaldeep, has decided I must marry, and so I shall. I lay my obedience at his feet." Both the parents were very happy to hear this. But then she says, "I have only one condition. The man whom you select as a suitable groom for me will have to pass a trial before I marry him. He must defeat a champion of my choice at a sword duel." So when she finished, her parents were really surprised. They said, "You mean it'll be a swayamvar? Like the bride choosing her groom?" She said, "Well, sort of. Only that my choice will depend on his prowess against my champion," pointed out Padmavati. Now, what was the reason she did this? Try and imagine what would happen. She was already brought up as an heir to the throne. If she married, what would her husband be? He would also be a prince of the realm.
Yes.
And she wanted a man who would be able to match her own, love for the people, her own moral duties towards them.
Yes.
And she thought that if this is one way that I can at least, ensure that this happens. So I think that was the reason why she decided that it'll be a dual swayamvar.
And also not to forget the strength to protect the clan.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Has to be a warrior who's brave enough, courageous enough, and has the skill to protect the country.
And in your book, it's mentioned like she gave him quite a hard time
Yes.
during the duel.
Yes.
And he, for a second, thought that he couldn't even imagine that it was Padmavati herself
Exactly.
fighting her to-be husband. So that was something that was, I think it's very inspiring for young girls out there. Fight your own war.
Absolutely.
And give him a hard time if you have to, I think. All right, moving a bit forward, like after their marriage, now that Padmavati has decided to go to Chittor. Of course, there was sort of an understanding between Gandharv Sena, Padmavati's father, and Raval Ratan Singh, that after their marriage, Padmavati would be continuing like in Singhaldweep, while Rana would go there and come back, every once in 6 months or once in a year or something of that sorts. But Padmavati at the very end decides to accompany him
Exactly.
to Chittor. So I think, I feel like she had that affection, not just affection, she knew her duties towards, her responsibilities as a wife and as someone who is like a soul partner.
Exactly.
Talking about meditation and the connection of meditation with Padmavati, I just wanted to ask, like in your book you have mentioned that during her meditation and during those sessions, she could sort of get out of her physical body and travel the spiritual realm. And not just the spiritual realm, she could go around, in the physical realm only, she could just go around, but in the form of a spirit, right? So is that something that she might have used or she might have done during Johar?
So, I mean, the question that you have raised is a question which was very much there in my mind when I was writing the book. How did she have that courage? How did she have that dedication, that determination? Because it was completely her own decision. Nobody compelled her to commit Johar. So, and she was a very staunch Hindu. That is already there. That has already been proved. And you know that Hinduism encourages meditation. And there are so many instances where ascetics, when they have meditated for a very long time, they are able to see their astral forms. So it occurred to me, why not her? And then there is Ginny, who is actually her spirit. So I sort of combined the two, and that is where I brought in this whole fact that yes, she was able to see, she was able to have this astral experience. So is it possible that during the Johar, which was, I mean, it's horrific for anyone to go through it, and I think I've given that description over there. So how could she remain so calm? So it is possible because of her spiritual strength. Her spirituality.
That might have given her the power
and the
endure.
strength. Yes.
Now that like I'm thinking of it, I think meditation, even like I've seen it, I've sort of heard it from a lot of people that while meditating, you can actually feel an out of body experience.
Yes.
And that is something I think it's very special. It actually, you feel very light. So I think a lot of these things do connect. My next question to you is her life in Chittor. Of course, a lot of people were not very fond of the fact that Rawal had gotten his 15th wife, and how her life was in Chittor is what I want to know. Like, of course, there were dasis and there were people who really loved her, adored her, but there were also people who were really against her. And there were times when she was actually attacked and she felt humiliated also. So just wanted to elaborate on her life in Chittor, if you can give us.
Okay, so when she first came to Chittor, the people, nobody in fact in the palace accepted her except Ba, who was his, who loved Ratan Singh so much and realized why maybe he married her. So, because she was an outsider, she was not a Rajput. So everybody felt, why did he bring her to Chittorgarh? Because Rajput traditions are very, very strict.
Yep.
They're very, very conservative. The women at that time, the 13th century, were in parda always. Here there was this girl, maybe she was so beautiful, but still, and she was a princess, she was a royal princess, but still she did not belong to India. She was not a Rajput. Why did he bring her to Chittorgarh was the question. So she was not given a very warm welcome. And then we come to the palace where there is already a chief queen, the first queen,
Prabhavati.
Rani
Prabhavati.
Yes,
Yeah.
so she is the one who is actually she's the one who should actually be sitting on the throne with the Rawal when he becomes the Rawal. So obviously she felt a huge amount of envy and jealousy and towards this young, beautiful woman, other than the fact that her husband had chosen her, even though he had married Prabhavati. And yes, there were many attempts on her life. But other than the palace politics, which was anyway there, the Thakurs of Chittorgarh, all the Sardars and the Thakurs under the Rawal, they felt threatened. Because they soon discovered that she was very skillful with her weapons. She was also a strategist. She was very wise. And she did give advice to Ratan Singh as to how he should rule.
And Ratan Singh listened to her
And
advices.
Ratan Singh gave her a lot of respect, gave a lot of respect to her opinion. And that is where they felt threatened. Because after all, at that time, the 13th century, the entire Rajput society was completely ruled by male opinions and views. They did not like a woman who, she of course kept herself in parda because that was the tradition, but there was enough going on behind that curtain and they did not like that. So these were the reasons. But as she kept staying in Chittorgarh, as she started mingling with the common people of Chittorgarh,
that's what I want to know. How was she with the common folks of Chittorgarh? Like,
she was very warm.
Yeah.
She would go to their homes, she would sit down there, eat their food, which was something that the royal family never did. The members of the royal family never did that. And that is how she became she got so much affection and love from the people of Chittorgarh. So later on, like you did ask me that why did she not run away when her life was threatened with Khalchi literally banging on the gates of Chittorgarh. Because I think she felt she owed it to the people there.
Yeah.
That she should stay with them.
Yeah.
It's like, they say the captain is the last person to leave the sinking ship.
That's true.
So she felt that now that Chittorgarh is getting destroyed, I must be with these people.
And she had a choice to leave Chittor and save her life. But
she didn't
do that.
She didn't take
She
it.
chose this.
To stay with the people. That is again there to show you the kind of dedication she had.
And the love she had
exactly.
for
And the
Chittor.
kind of duty bound that she felt towards her subjects and her people.
A lot of people are thinking, or they usually, after I guess the movie got released, they thought that there were two sort of point of views to the story. One of some people I've heard said that Alauddin Khilji just wanted to take over Chittor, and that was his main goal. But hearing about Rani Padmavati also was like one of the second prizes that he was going after. But what I feel is, like, in my personal point of view and what I have like seen and what I've read in your story, I found out that maybe he really didn't care about the gold that was going to come from Mewar. He actually wanted her. So is that also somewhere true?
I believe both the options can be accepted. One, because Alauddin Khilji wanted to conquer land, and he definitely wanted to, subdue the proud Rajputs, and one of them was Chittorgarh. Chittorgarh was, if you go to the fort, when I went there at least, I tried to imagine that in the 13th century, where there were no vehicles except horses, how did they scale these huge walls? They were not walls, they were rock cliffs. On that rock cliff, this fort was built. So how did they do it? Even today, if you have to go to the fort, you have to travel at least 6 or 7 or 10 kilometers maybe before you reach the actual gate. The road keeps going, and you keep passing these poles. Each pole is actually a gate.
Yeah.
So that many security levels were there to the fort.
Okay.
And that's why it was said that it cannot be conquered. And that was like a challenge to Khalji. He said, okay, I'll do it. And then, of course, the story or the legend says that there was a person who was a traitor, and he brought to Khalji the painting of Rani Padmavati.
Raghav Chetna.
So that is also, it was like a trigger.
In the movie Padmavat and in your book, the characters who betray Mewar are quite different. Like in the movie, it's the Brahmin, and in your book, it's Raghav Chetna, who's the artist. So just wanted to know, like, of course there are no real evidences, so we don't have everything to pull all the minute details together. But in your opinion, who was it? Like, who was the person who actually did this? Like the betrayal part of it.
I think the story of Raghav Chetna is a more plausible story, and that is why I went with that story. Yes, you are absolutely right. There are so many myths, there's so many stories, so many legends about this queen and what happened actually. You have to really choose the one which is more possible, could have happened, and so on. So I chose this one.
Oh, yeah, I think that is something that I would also like to stick to, because how come, like, for a ruler who is conquering, who's so busy conquering lands, would wait for so many months for a beauty he hasn't even seen? I'm pretty sure he must have seen it in a portrait or something that would have like caught his attention. So I've had this question for a very long time, and I feel that Rani Padmavati, as mentioned in your book, and a lot of people say, had the outlook towards time which was way ahead of her time. A lot of people also say that she was probably born in the wrong century, but I think the nature never makes mistakes. In talking about her strategies, she was someone who was in admin, who was in, war math also. So can you tell us a little bit about how she managed to get back Ratan Singh from Alauddin Khilji's army? Like, they had thrice as big, like their army was humongous. Absolutely. As compared to the Mewar tribe, right? Mewar army. But how did she manage to get Ratan Singh out of that not single-handedly? Of course, there was Prince Gora and Badal and so many martyrs. But how did she sort of played that out? Can you just Tell me about that.
So first and foremost, the reference that you just did to Gora and Badal. So there is again a Hindi literary work which is called Gora Badal Chaupai. So I got it translated into English, and I went through that, and that gives the full description of that battle. So a lot of the description that you read in my book is from that battle which I read about in that chaupai, and it's a very famous chaupai. I think a lot of people in UP and in Rajasthan know about it. Now, as far as Padmavati is concerned, I think that is where she is a woman, because she decides to trick him. She knows how much he wants to see her, and so she decides to trick him. So she goes in that, she takes those palanquins, and she's there in those palanquins, and she's taken so many gifts for him and all that, and he's like, so that is how she disarms him. She makes him feel that she's actually coming to him, and Ratan Singh is somebody she has separated from or divorced, or she doesn't want, or whatever. So in that way, she puts Alauddin Khilji into a situation or into a kind of a mental state where he is completely like disarmed, he's completely relaxed, he doesn't know what's going to happen. In that atmosphere, she brings in the attack.
Okay.
So all his soldiers, including he himself, is like completely stunned, completely surprised by what happens. And it is that surprise element that she uses as her strategy. And that is how she is able to rescue Ratan Singh. Of course, it is true that a lot of Rajput soldiers died in the attempt, and that is held against her later on. People, the Thakurs don't see what she did, which they did not attempt to do. They only blamed her for the men who had died. But we have to take into consideration that she was a superb military strategist.
That is so true. I mean, I think during that time when people hardly listened to women's opinions or maybe what they had to say about the war, she gave an ultimate strategy that I think Alauddin Khilji couldn't have seen coming. Like, he was, I mean, that's what I imagine.
And that is why they won.
That worked.
Yes,
that
absolutely, it worked.
So, wow, that's something that really inspired me, even in the book and also in the film that we all saw. Is there anything that, like, as an author, like, just asking as a young girl sitting here, from the story of Padmavati, if there's anything we can learn from her? I know I have learned a lot of things, but I feel like our lives, especially girls in this generation, of course we have the freedom, the liberty, we are following our hearts, and I think if Ma Padmavati is around, she would be so happy to see girls flourishing in their fields, doing whatever their heart desires in terms of career, in terms of marriage or other aspects. Is there something that she would want us to sort of live by? As an author, do you think, is there something she would want us to live by?
Let me first tell you my feelings when I went to Chittorgarh. Because when I did not find, I was unable to find anything about her, in books or in movies or online, I decided that I must go to Chittorgarh. So when I went to Chittorgarh, and when I saw the place that she lived in, and so when you read my book, and you will find that this reporter who is actually trying to find out whether Padmavati exists walks through the fort. That is exactly the walk that I took through the fort. So everything that I've described there are things that I saw on my walk.
So Mrinalini
Yes.
is you.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, that's the parallel that I'm drawing right now.
Right. So what I wanted to tell you is that when I went through Chittorgarh, I saw the palace in the lake. That was her own palace that Ratan Singh had created for her. And in fact, when I was writing about that palace, I really had to research as to how in the 13th century did they build something like that in the middle of water.
Yeah.
I had to find out,
Lake
what is it?
Palace.
Yeah, what did they use for construction? And thankfully, I did find something about it, and that is how I wrote that. But more than that is that, especially when I went to the exact place where the tunnel where she had committed Johar. So this is the place is like this, that there is a kind of kund. It's called the Gomukh Kund, and because there's a kind of head of a cow
Yeah.
from which the water comes.
Yeah.
Actually, that kund was used for the bathing of the royal ladies. So there was a tunnel which connected the main palace to this Gomukh Kund. So they would do their puja there, and then they would go back through that tunnel, so that nobody would be able to, no outsider or any man or male person would be able to see them when they were. So that was the tunnel that was used for Johar by Padmavati, because this is there. I found
Yes.
that out. This fact is there, that it was raining for days and days and days. So there is a proper Johar Sthal in the middle of Chittorgarh fort that had become completely filled with water. So no fire could be lit over there. So she said that, okay, light the fire in the tunnel.
All right.
Now, if you go to that place, the tunnel is now closed. Like, they have put a rock over there, because apparently I heard from the guides over there that snakes were coming out of it.
Alright.
So they have closed it. But if you stand right in front of that tunnel, there's a kind of a chhatri there. You just stand under that chhatri. At least I felt it. I felt an eerie feeling. I just felt that she was somewhere around. I mean, it was such a strange feeling, and yet I actually felt her spirit around me. Wow. And I think that is when an emotional connect with this personality between her and me started. So after that, whenever I was writing, I would keep remembering that moment. And a lot of that emotion, I think, has come into my writing. And possibly that is why this book is, it's after 7 years, I think it was printed in 2017 or something. It is still a bestseller.
Yes,
this book.
And I mean, I have cried multiple times while
Reading
reading the book, but like happy tears, happy and proud tears.
Yeah. Young people or even older readers, when they read this book and read about her life, I believe the message that she gave me, I hope I have been able to, disseminate it through my story, which is, however unfavorable, however tough circumstances may be, kitne bhi problems aaye, never give up. Always एक रास्ता है, उसे ढूंढना पड़ेगा. और जब आप वो रास्ता ढूंढ लोगे और उस रास्ते पर चलोगे, you will be able to conquer everything, even death. Death will be compelled to give you immortality. मृत्यु से आप खत्म नहीं हो जाओगे. And I think that is what happened to Padmavati. We still remember her. Today we are still talking about her.
So I think I think all the questions that I've covered for Rani Padmavati, I think we have covered everything. Now, I think my last question to you would be, for all the authors, all the budding writers out there who want to get into historic fiction, they want to write about historic figures, but somehow, of course, they don't have all the facts. So how can someone who is into that bridge the gap between fact and fiction? What advice would you give to them?
So I think the first advice would be that research is extremely important. And before you even start writing, you have to find out all the primary and the secondary sources of research. So you need material. And after Padmavati, I have written at least 3 more historical novels, 3 more historical narratives actually. And I definitely give at least 6 to 7 months to research. And I will research from books, I will research from documentaries, I will research from a lot of, from online, from blogs. And I also connect to people who have been working on this. I mean, I have written about Genghis Khan, so I connected to Dr. John Mann, who is a professor at Cambridge in UK. He's a very well-known Mongolist. So he gave me advice. So there are so many ways that you can research. So you should use every source that you can. Go to museums, go to libraries, and so on. That is one definite, very important thing. The second thing is that there is always this, temptation to bring in your fiction. But I have always believed that historical facts should never be distorted just to write your story. So if you look at history is at the end of the day an interpretation of evidence that is available. So all these people are not there for us to tell, for them to tell us their story. So how is it that we do it? So usually when we go to any historical interpretation, it is always done on some evidence, whether it is books, manuscripts, poems, monuments, coins, and so on. But if you put all, supposing you are like I have researched on Rani Padmavati. अगर हम सबको एक लाइन में खड़ा करें, सारे रिसर्च मतलब जो भी एविडेंस है हिस्टोरिकल, अगर उसको हम एकदम क्रोनोलॉजिकली हम उनको रखें, you will find that there are gaps.
There are definitely gaps.
And why are those gaps there? Because evidence है नहीं. इसलिए the historian has not been able to fill that gap. What I do as a writer is I fill the gap with the narrative. Because जो conversations हैं वो तो कहीं किसी ने लिखा नहीं है. And we don't have the people कि हम उनको पूछें. तो I have to create those conversations. So yes, those conversations are fictitious. But then they are referring and inferring something which is already there in the historical fact. And that is why, a lot of readers come back to me and ask me how much of this is fact and how much of it is fiction. And this is the answer I give. I said that if you look at dates, if you look at events, they are all facts. You can go back and research on it and find out कि ये सच है, ये गलत है. And you will realize that all of them are authentic. I will never change or distort any historical fact, and this is the advice I would give to any writer who is writing a historical narrative. Don't ever distort a fact, because then your authenticity, your validity goes away.
Stick to the truth.
Stick to the truth. Absolutely.
Of course, bring in your imagination,
right?
But to like a certain extent.
Absolutely. And the other thing that my research has thrown up is that here is the 13th century society in Rajasthan. I want to bring it alive for my readers. So I have to research कपड़े क्या पहनते थे, खाना क्या खाते थे, how did they address people, language क्या होती थी उस दिन. और you will find in my book there's a lot of regional words. But all those regional words are authentic because I have got them validated. कि मैंने गलत तो कुछ नहीं लिखा इसमें. But in this way I'm recreating the world. And I'm bringing my reader into that world, because at the end of the day I always want to tell my reader कि history कोई उस दिन की बात नहीं है. History आज भी है, हमारी चारों तरफ है history. It is a living entity which is all around us.
We can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Exactly. So that is why when I bring my readers into this world that I create for them, I want to tell them that live in the 13th century. Be around Padmavati, and then you will be able to decide and discern कि ये जो चीज उन्होंने की थी, this decision that she took, why did she take it? Because you cannot always compare something that happened in the 13th century with present day ideas, principles. You cannot compare.
Talking about things that still exist. This is my last question.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought that would be my last question. This is my last question. Is Padmavali real?
Maybe. Because you see, जितने जो मेरे जो प्रश्न थे ना, जिनके मुझे answers नहीं मिले, I had this very funny feeling, this strange feeling कि is it possible कि her voice was subdued? किसी ने उसको दबा दिया था? तो अगर पद्मावती अपना कहानी अपने वर्ड्स में बोलना चाहती है तो वो क्या लिखेगी?
That is Padmavali.
That is Padmavali.
And I think we should all probably, everyone, all the audiences probably should pay their visit to Chittorgarh and sort of find out if Padmavali exists.
Yes, I would always advise it.
Maybe you'll find it out. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was wonderful to have this conversation with you, Manakya.
I'm still getting goosebumps.